What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Books for Crookz. I'm Bella Dee. Last week, we showed some love to the West Coast. We read Inside a Thug's Heart by Angela Artis with original poems and letters by Tupac Shakur. Whew! You already know how that book went. This week, we're going up north. Go show some love to the Bay Area. We're reading Mac Dre, A Crime That Was Never Committed by Donald Morrison. In the 1990s, urban centers around America were experiencing a sharp rise in violent crime fueled by the crack epidemic. Relationships between a predominantly white police force and the black community continued to deteriorate, culminating in the 1992 Los Angeles riots, set off by the brutal beating of Rodney King, which was captured on camera and played for the nation on nightly news programs. It was the first time that police brutality had been caught on tape and widely viewed by white America. It vindicated the black community, who'd been complaining of police brutality throughout the history of policing in America. Music was the dominating force in Mac Dre's life by this point. In just 3.5 years, he'd gone from a breakdancing kid to a high school rap phenom, then a formidable hip-hop underground star in Northern California and even beyond. With his 1992 album, What's Really Going On, a frustrated Mac Dre balances emotions of anger and loss at the death of his comrade, the Mac, with major resentment towards local law enforcement and the judicial system as a whole. On the title track of the album, he unleashes a somewhat satirical Jack and Jill, a story that crosses from fairy tale to harsh reality, one that becomes strikingly similar to his own story in which he raps. Little Jack Jr. grew up to be fly, a shake 'em, break 'em, take 'em player kind of guy. When others would grind, Jack Jr. would rhyme. I guess to this fact, the rollers were blind. He had dreams of rapping gold and platinum, but the rollers would jack him and steadily attack him. One day they beat him down, hit him in all his crown. He swung, hit one, they sent him to the ground. Cuffed and stuffed, continued to rough him. In jail they stuffed him when Jack did nothing. Charged him with assault on a COP, trying to stop him from getting to the TOP. Had a max of 4, pleaded and got 2. Now he's in jail on a deal he copped too. Thinking about the day when he gets home, what's really going on? In the January release of What's Going On also included a mix of California living. Perhaps no better song demonstrated Mac Dre's frustration with Vallejo police than the standout track Punk Police. His charge against them was easily warranted, as his brief run-ins became more frequent before and after the release of Punk Police. His own animosity stemmed from personal issues with police harassment of himself and his friends in the neighborhood and elsewhere. He was arrested and received citations in Fairfield and Vallejo for everything from making terrorist threats to assault on 6 different occasions between 1990 and 1991. Mac Dre was intent on letting local officials and fans know that his friends were not a gang, as they had consistently been labeled in newspapers by the officers. You've labeled us a ruthless GANG, but the biggest gangsters are on the VPD, Mac Dre says in Punk Police. Unknowingly and without radio or video support, Mac Dre became a marked man under law enforcement's gaze, and also a spokesman for his community, and not just another street rapper to glorify the macking that he had become known for at his career junction. A police log of the activities of Mac Dre and his friends, including constant street surveillance, shows a persistent attempt by officers to catch the group of teens and young adults slipping in the 1990s. The surveillance began years before Mac Dre ever faced any real time behind bars. Not only were Vallejo police investigating, following, and harassing Mac Dre by early 1990, but when the Romper Room game began to become synonymous with criminal activity, including bank robberies, the FBI got involved. Early Mac Dre funding source and executive producer Reynold Powers contests the bank robberies that the Romper Room gang were being accused of at the time. He says ain't nobody out there besides his mother who can say they took money out their pocket and paid for him to get on, besides me and Kyrie. I'm talking about real money. They say they were robbing banks and giving it to Mac Dre. They weren't doing that. Since his release from prison, close Mac Dre associate and co-defendant Jay Diggs has been open about his personal involvement in the bank robbing enterprise. He admitted recently in a VLAD TV interview that the crew was responsible for taking down nearly 50 banking institutions and pizza parlors, all the while frankly stating that Mac Dre was never involved. Diggs articulated that the robberies would be conducted in a takeover style, where the robbers would quickly enter, secure any patrons and employees, demand money, and leave quickly. Diggs has gone on to say that everything was always done in the same fashion, quick and methodical. According to Diggs, they all knew that they were being watched and that they were being stopped constantly. Ironically, after one robbery in San Francisco where Mac Dre's mother, Wanda, was presently working, her son received a frantic call. The FBI came and showed us photos, Wanda said. I called Dre immediately. I was terrified and pissed. They were pointing guns at us, demanding money. I asked him if he was a part of it, and by his answer, I knew for sure he wasn't. The Hollywood film industry has often glorified and romanticized the idea of robbing banks, from westerns in the 1950 films about train heist to modern-day cinema that seemingly celebrates it. On August 16, 1991, the Bank of America in Livermore, California, was targeted for a bank robbery. The details of the crime were later broadcast, giving general descriptions of suspects. Before 10 a.m., one suspect who was 5'5" and another 6'1" and muscular entered the bank. They are, in total, 5 fully clothed and masked males. They entered the bank and immediately fired 4 rounds from a 9mm type Uzi weapon into the ceiling. This ain't no joke, this is a robber, one shouts. 2 or 3 jump the teller counter into the teller windows that are open for business. At least one of the containers were brought with them. Robbers were somewhat physical with all 3 females during the robbery, and the 5th man stays in the teller area. Robbers in masks, but appears to be black and based on their diction. After the robbery, the supercharged FBI surveillance of Mac Dre and anyone else associated with the Crest or the Romper Room gang was in full force. By September 7th, a report was circulating between governing parties and law enforcement and included the use of a confidential informant, also referred to as a snitch, who was later revealed to be Corey Dunn. Corey was gunned down in 2010 on Woodrow Avenue in Vallejo, nearly 30 years after helping to send his former friends to prison. A huge break into the pizza and bank takeovers came when TV show producers for the Unsolved Mysteries got involved. The Unsolved Mysteries segment on Romper Room aired on March 4th, 1992, the same month in which Mac Dre's What's Going On was released. The episode featured Vallejo detective Rick Nickelman and Dana Myers, a pizza parlor supervisor. Nickelman was quoted during the episode saying, "Some of the language they've used during the commission of these has been very specific, like don't make this a 187, which in California is the penal code section for murder." The show's host, Robert Stack, says in the episode that the robbers seem familiar with the layout of each individual target and go about their business with brisk, cold efficiency. Within minutes, the thieves have vanished, leaving police with almost no clues and a handful of terrified victims. Wide coverage of the bank robberies and pizza parlor break-ins flooded local news after the arrest of the supposed perpetrators in March of 1992. The harassment of Mac Dre and his friends was very real. Mac Dre was followed and eventually arrested in Fresno along with Kilo Kurt and Jay Diggs. On that day, he decided to hitch a ride to Fresno with Kurt and Diggs so he could meet up with a girl he'd met while performing a show 2 weeks earlier. On the way to Fresno, the car was pulled over and surrounded by officers with the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well as Vallejo police. The police say while Mac Dre was getting busy in a local motel with his lady friend, his accomplices were out casing a Fresno bank with plans for a robbery. But a local news crew had caught wind of the robbery over the police scanner and had prematurely gone to the bank. When Mac Dre's friends saw the news crew, they called it off, according to the documents provided by the FBI. However, police still felt they had enough evidence to pull Mac Dre and his friends over and charge the crew with conspiracy to commit bank robbery. In a scene recounted by Jay Diggs in the Legend of the Bay documentary, Mac Dre actually noticed that the men were being followed by an undercover cop before police attempted to pull them over. "We were on the highway heading north back to the Bay Area," Jay Diggs says. "A car passed by. Now I'm sitting in the driver's seat and I'm facing Mac Dre. On his face, it looked like he'd seen a ghost. Something was not right. I wasn't feeling it." Jay Diggs continues, "So what I did, instead of going straight on the freeway, I smashed across the intersection of the freeway, across the median, and started driving the other way. When I did that, it looked like every car on the freeway did. There were about 30 FBI's They were following me, and they all started peeling off the freeway. That's when we realized they were on us. FBI case files released years after the trial revealed extraordinary lengths authorities went in order to catch the alleged bank robbers. Surveillance units present that day included FBI special agents, Fresno County Sheriff's Office deputies, Fresno Police Department officers, and the Vallejo Police Department officers. By this point, Mac Dre had attracted the ire of local and federal law enforcement with lyrical taunts, and the police believed they were being funded with capital gain through the pizza shop robberies and the credit union stick-ups. Although, by all accounts, including J. Diggs' autobiography, Mac Dre never took part in any robberies. He was merely the artist that his crew rallied behind in an attempt to use their spoils for something that had real meaning. Mac Dre's music had the momentum and potential to change the financial lives of the entire romper room. Members who grew up engulfed in poverty and forced to commit crimes to get a leg up in the music industry now saw a way through Mac Dre's artistic vision. According to the surveillance log, the men were riding in a Champagne 1991 Chevrolet Geo, rented recently at a budget rent-a-car in Vallejo. The FBI files include a list of items confiscated after the group was pulled over. White cotton ball cap with University of North Carolina on it, Sony portable stereo model CFS 720, electric cord for a stereo, light blue Levi jeans, white t-shirt, pair of dark blue cotton gloves, one pair of gray cotton gloves, 2 cassette tapes, a Sony and a TGK, red spiral notebook, black page net Motorola pager, budget rent-a-car rental agreement, pair of Nike tennis shoes with a gray tape around them, size 7.5, Glock 9mm semi-automatic handgun, serial number with a clip, Aspen deodorant, and aftershave, copy of the Vallejo Times, March 25th, 1992, one roll of gray duct tape, a receipt from Foot Locker, a packet of zigzag papers, and 2 Nike shoe boxes. The police also found 2 black ski masks about 40 feet away from where the group stopped, with the belief that the crew had tossed them from the car after noticing police attempting to pull them over. Each ski mask has its own logo on it, which is circular and bears the logo of the Washington Redskins, according to the FBI files. The trial turned into a circus almost immediately. The local news report included that the FBI files reported that the normally somber federal courtroom of the Judge Robert Coyle pulsed into a rap beat. During the parts of the trial, prosecutors played portions of Back in the Hood as a part of their effort to show Mac Dre's connection to the Fresno bank robbery. The bank was robbed, and I fit the description, Mac Dre raps in his song. They also played for the jury lyrics like, "Man, you can't even find who's been robbing you blind. You had to blame somebody, so you're gonna frame somebody," from Punk Police. Mac Dre's lawyer, C. Don Clay of Oakland, argued in the U.S. District Court that his client had been targeted by authorities simply because of the anti-police messages in his early music. But to the police, it didn't matter whether Mac Dre was actually committing the crimes. In their eyes, he was still profiting off the cash stolen, and when they caught him slipping in the Chevrolet Geo with J. Diggs and Kilo Court, they seized on the moment to hem him up. It's why the judge eventually handed him the maximum penalty for conspiracy to rob a bank, why he did nearly the entire stretch of his 5-year bid. According to J. Diggs in his book, Soul of a Gangsta, Mac Dre used his time awaiting trial, calling radio DJs and giving exclusive interviews. One of those DJs was Mr. Marshall on a syndicated radio show called Street Soldier. During one call, Mac Dre told the world that he, Kilo Kurt, and J. Diggs were all innocent and blamed everything on the driver that day, Corey Dunn. J. Diggs said that the feds immediately went to Mr. Marshall and ordered him to stop interviewing inmates, but the damage was done. The entire Bay Area now knew what Dunn had done that day in Fresno. He'd worn a wire and entrapped his close friends to avoid spending time in jail on another charge. Mac Dre outing Dunn and managing to have a voice during the early days of the trial solidified his reputation in the street and furnished him with a cult following in the Bay Area. His album, released from behind bars with Kyrie, also showed fans his commitment to the art form. Mac Dre was sentenced to 5 years for refusing to accept a plea deal. His accomplices were convicted of attempted bank robbery and given 10 years. This all happened just 8 days after Mac Dre released What's Really Going On EP, and only weeks removed from opening for West Coast legend Ice Cube at a show. What should and could have been a superb launching pad for Mac Dre's career turned out to be a 4-year and 4-month nightmare for the young MC. The police in the Bay Area must have been pretty confused when the local robberies of banks and credit unions continued unabated after J Diggs, Kilo Kurt, and Mac Dre were all sentenced for attempted robbery in Fresno. Robberies were still taking place at a breakneck speed, and eventually, while all 3 men were still serving time in federal prison, the police would make their move against what was left of the Romper Room gang. In April 1998, Vallejo police agents from the State Department of Justice and the FBI arrested 53 members and associates of the Romper Room gang after a year-long investigation. They were accused of taking more than $1.5 million in the past 2 years from banks and credit unions in San Jose, Santa Clara, Sacramento, Stockton, and Vallejo. The detectives also alleged that the group went further by bragging about their crimes, specifically the robbing of credit unions, on the song Uninvited off Mac Dre's Presents the Rompilation. A Vallejo Police Department press release stated that Mac Dre was one of the suspects rapping about the robberies, but if you look closely at the lyrics of the final verse, he was the only rapper on the track who wasn't rapping about robberies. However, those facts didn't matter, and the song itself paraded around local police as one of the reasons more than 24 men were arrested for the string of robberies. It would seem that the cowboy image portrayed by Mac Dre, Kilo Kurt, and J Diggs inspired scores of young people in the Bay Area to attempt to commit the same crimes they saw their heroes taking part in. As J Diggs describes in his book, Vallejo gangsters were becoming known for their affinity of bank robbing and their exceptional talents of being able to escape unscathed for years. Robbing banks was what our neighborhood became known for. And the Crest felt like that was what we did. We robbed banks and they went crazy with it. J Diggs said, the bank robberies got intense and overwhelming with the feds went in and swept up the entire hood. They picked up a total of 52 people. As soon as they grabbed them, they immediately associated them with us, the Romper Room crew. Because the robberies were similar styles and they were from our hood, and the media made it seem as if we were the masterminds behind everything. It had nothing to do with the Romper Room crew though. It was just a new generation that had clung on to something we had started. Man, that was crazy. He wasn't even involved and he still got his 5-year bid. I don't know how I feel about that. What do you think about that? Leave it right here in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. All right, y'all, if you want to get a hold of me, I'm Bella Dee, bbx.951, and Books for Crookz on Instagram. We'll catch you here next time.